indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Milanazzo, Mr. Conway,
Here.
Ms. Doherty, Ms. Larraba,
Here.
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
Here.
Ms. Martin.
Here.
Okay. Minutes of the regular scheduled meeting of Wednesday, November 2nd, 2011. Is there a motion by Ms. Larraba? Second by Mr. Conway. All those in favor? Ayes. The ayes have it. Need a roll call or
For what, the minutes, yes.
need a minutes? Okay. Approved?
Well, no, you don't need them.
Okay. Permission to enter, Madam Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Leary. Yes, to Bamco Corporation for $10,500 to remove and dispose of 2 overhangs at the Riley Elementary School and patch foundation footing holds to ground level. The funding will be provided by the school department local budget capital improvements.
Motion by Ms. Larraba, second by Mr. Conway. Roll call.
Mayor Milanazzo, Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty, Ms. Larraba,
Yes.
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
4 yeas, 3 ayes.
Okay. Memorials. Robert A. Baker, father of Roseanne Hall, Lori Lee, from the Laura Lee Therapeutic Day School. Judith Sarmento Babola, sister of Rich Sarmento, Riley School custodian. Margaret M. Farley, mother of Thomas Farley, Butler Middle School teacher. Marilyn P. Lapine, mother of Linda Lash, retired Butler Middle School teacher and current tutor, and Douglas Tigbles, Wying Middle School teacher. Kimberly C. Kimmy Martison, Shaughnessy School teacher. If we could rise and have a moment of silence. May they rest in peace. Unfinished business? Public participation, none. Motions. First motion by Allison Larraba, that the school committee make the necessary arrangements to retrieve all executive meeting minutes, both drafts and completed, currently being held by the former recording secretary, and place them under the control of the superintendent's office. Motion by Ms. Larraba. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Doherty. Ms. Larraba.
Thank you. When I first asked the question of the executive secretary to the superintendent about the minutes, she did not have them. I have since had a conversation with Mr. Jay Lang, who indicated that he does have possession of these minutes, but I guess there's no protocol or procedure for how these are to be stored. So I would like the committee at some point to figure out how they're going to store these. But I also believe we have an outstanding set of minutes that have not been approved and released. I believe it was the February meeting, the last meeting where we voted on what to release. So I'd like to get that cleaned up if we could at the next executive session meeting.
Okay. Anyone else? All those in favor say aye. Ayes have it, approved. Motion by Allison Larraba that the school committee devise a method of subcommittee assignments that ensures a rotation of school committee members every 2 years, thus enabling new committee members a spot at the table. Motion by Ms. Larraba. Second by Ms. Doherty. Ms. Larraba.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. Just hearkening back to when I was first elected onto the committee, I was initially told that my committee assignments would be those of the person that I was replacing. And that wasn't necessarily the fit that I was looking for. I'm just looking to see, for the new members, that there's a conversation about how the committees are set up and also the chairmanships. I mean, these people have obviously shown leadership in getting elected. You know, there shouldn't be a reason that they couldn't handle a chairmanship, and I think the voters have shown that they are looking for some kind of change, so that perhaps this would be a way to address those and listen to the voters in terms of changing some of the assignments, or at least the chairmanships. Thank you.
Ms. Doherty.
I didn't have an understanding that there was a problem with the way we were doing it. Newcomers certainly had the option to be chair. I know that when I first got on the committee, there was a spot in technology. I wasn't as interested in that. I remember speaking with my colleague about maybe her taking that spot so I could have a committee I was interested in. I think it's premature for us to make decisions about new members coming in. Of course, the mayor ultimately has final say about not only the makeup, but also, I believe, the chairmanships of the subcommittees. I might be wrong on that, but I know the mayor does appoint who's the chair. And in the past, if there were two committee members who, because I've been in this situation as well, interested in sharing the same subcommittee, we had discussions with whoever was the mayor at the time. My sense with this is I wouldn't feel comfortable making a change in a process that I didn't have a problem with in the past, but also to leave it open to the new committee when it comes in to make any of those decisions. So that would be my take on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Doherty. Mr. Conway?
Mr. Chairman, I think that, just very briefly, I think that we vote on those bylaws at the beginning of our term, and if I recall, I think in the bylaws, I do believe that the mayor has the right and the obligation to make assignments for various committees. So I think it's already taken care of at this particular time. Thank you.
Just a one for clarification before I recognize Ms. Laird. The bylaws state that the mayor appoints the subcommittees and that it's subject to approval of the school committee. Ms. Laird?
Thank you. I guess I wasn't very clear. I wasn't suggesting that this current body devise the makeup, that I wanted to open this up as a conversation, because you have a mayor that's going to be brand new, doesn't know the members, and making decisions on chairmanships and makeups of committees. So I'm really just trying to, for the new committee and for the next cycle, is to get a conversation going that I think is a little more welcoming than what I felt 2 years ago.
Okay. Roll call.
Mayor Milanazzo? Mr. Conway?
No.
Ms. Doherty?
No.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Mr. Leahy? Mr. Leary?
No.
Ms. Martin?
No.
4 nays, 1 yay, 2 absent. Fails.
Okay. Motion by Mr. David Conway to ask the superintendent to develop strategies for implementing civic involvement into the curriculum on our 3 levels of education. Motion by Mr. Conway, second by Ms. Doherty. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, I think that what has taken place in the last week or so with the election, I think it was a disappointment that only 19% of the voters came out to vote. And first of all, I want to commend and thank that 19% to come out. I think that's extremely important, and they did their duty, and and I appreciate that, and I know we all do. The only thing is that there are a lot of people that are not participating in the process, and I will just very quickly mention a couple things to you that I remember back how important that was, that process of voting. I can remember my grandmother. You knew it wasn't church day, but if it wasn't church day, it had to be a real important day, because she had the best pocketbook out and her best shoes out and the gloves, and she was ready to go and vote because she thought that was extremely important. And especially as a female, as she often used to say, she said, what a privilege. And she also mentioned that it was so important, and all those men and women that fought for us, that this was her way of paying back. And I think that, again, going back into a little bit of history, when I first taught, I taught civics, and we talked about how important it was to vote, how important it was to get involved with the community, and how important it was for that one vote, because so often you hear students talk about in school that their vote doesn't mean anything, and even adults. And I always used to use the example of Mr. Kennedy when he ran for governor's council against a gentleman named Connolly. And after the vote was tallied, Mr. Kennedy from Lowell won by 1 vote. But the ironic part about it is that Mr. Connolly and his wife did not vote in that election. So one vote it's extremely important. And I'm wondering, through you, Mr. Chairman, if we could have the superintendent make some comments on this as far as how, whether we think it's a good idea to involve this into the curriculum and how it might be done. Again, I don't want a Herculean task here with it, but I'm just wondering if we can put this in an easy way. Thank
Madam
you.
Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Of course, the whole responsibility of voting and is part of the standards in the curriculum. It's intermingled within the grade level standards. And so the whole concept, the election process, the importance of that is part of our ongoing work, and it has been for a number of years. The fact that if we think we have a fundamental city problem in Lowell, that we're not having the response to voting, then it means that we have to make it probably more realistic for young people. So this was one year, it was a little different at the high school. They started class offices at other grade levels other than the senior year. So there's now been some election type activities. And so in essence, to make an election process become real, we've talked about middle schools start thinking about elections, start thinking about what, in fact, why are you elected? What is the role? What do you hope to be able to do? And I know that beyond the seniors, we've gone all the way down, I think, to the freshman class at Lowell High School, and there are some middle schools that are beginning this process. You do that in classrooms, but if we think about it as grade level, and even with our young people, the importance of that, I mean, you speak about your grandmother, I talk about my parents. You would never miss a voting day, oh my God. And so, realistically, it is absolutely something we can look at focus-wise. It is in the new standards. The new standards, the Common Core standards, are really realistic activities and more integrated work for young people. So it's absolutely something that would lend itself.
Mr. Conway?
Just to follow up, I think also, and I remember we used to do the mock elections at the high school, and from what I understand, we did them in the middle schools too. And the kids used to get excited about that, because what we ended up doing is we ended up getting a lot of different departments involved. We got the math department involved, we got the English department involved, we had the history department. There were a lot of different departments that helped to put this and coordinate this process. And the kids, I think, that really, really enjoyed it. And just very quickly, just two other quick things, Mr. Chairman. The example that came up a while ago where we have UTEC trying to bring on the 17-year-olds to vote. Once again, whether one agrees with it or not, the fact is that we're trying to come up with a solution. And I think one of the things you mentioned about having problems with getting the voter out in Lowell, to be quite frank with it, it's trying to get the voter out not just in Lowell, but the entire country. There seems to be an apathy, and I'm just wondering if, how do you change that around? Well, you start to make attempts instead of just throwing up our hands and doing nothing. We're going to do something and see if we can change this situation. Thank you.
There's a motion made by Mr. Conway, second by Ms. Doherty. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Motion by Connie Martin to request that the superintendent prepare a report on the current distribution of crossing guards at critical intersections in the city, with particular focus on those locations where staff shortages have resulted in inconsistent coverage. Motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mayor Malinazzo. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much. Basically, this really just comes from some concerns raised by parents that there are certain intersections where we do recognize that there's a safety issue and we've put in place a crossing guard. And through nobody's fault, illnesses happen, leaves happen, but we have been left with some holes in the coverage, leaving the safety issue, I think, a little, again, inconsistent. So I'm hoping that the superintendent can work with our police department to come up with a plan that would allow us to, whether it's a temporary assignment, something that allows us to be prepared when there is a legitimate reason for someone to be out, but so that we can really still ensure that students have that that safety mechanism that helps them get across the street, that most basic thing of getting to and from school. Thank you very much.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Martin, second by Mayor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Ayes have it. Reports of the superintendent. Greater Lawrence Educational Collaborative. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. The first report is a report submitted to me by Assistant Superintendent Ann Murphy, and with the help of Special Education Director Sheila O'Brien. It is responding to a motion that was made by Mr. Leary in September that is requesting a report on the programs and services from the Lowell Greater Lawrence Educational Collaborative. And so there's quite a comprehensive report, but I'm just going to review the high points. GLEC is a very trusted partner that we have. On their board is our Deputy Superintendent, Jay Lang, who goes on a monthly basis and meets with the other members of the representatives from the Merrimack Valley. And at this particular time, this report is pointing out 5 different programs for different children with special needs. So there's one called Lifeways, which is behavioral, vocational, community support for children from the ages of 5 through 22 with autism. There's another program called Scale, which services vocational programming for children 17 through 22 with developmental disabilities. Another program that we participate in is a collaborative alternative program, which is a therapeutic educational program for children who are at the ages 6 to 12 who are unable to make effective progress in a typical school setting due to emotional or behavioral needs. Additionally, there's another program called the Essex Academy, a therapeutic school for students in grades 6 through 12 who have a documented history of psychiatric needs. And on the next page, you will see the detail that Mr. Leary requested in his motion, which says the program, the name of the program, our amount of students, what the tuition rates are, and the program's total cost, what it costs for us for GLEC. And so there are also other in-district services provided by the Greater Lawrence Educational Collaborative, some in-home training, and some orientation and mobility services. So this is an effort to answer the request of Mr. Leary, and if you have any further questions, please let us know.
Thank you. Mr. Leary?
Just, first of all, thank you very much for putting this so quickly together. I think it's a good start of what we need to look at it going forward into the next year. I think at this point, what we need to do is really refer this to the Students Services Subcommittee to have more of a dialogue in terms of not only the services, but start getting into the cost. Is it cost effective? Is it still add significant value to the district or not? So I put that as a form of a motion to send it to the Student Support Services Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. Motion by Mr. Leary, second by Ms. Martin to send this report to the Student Service Subcommittee. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Any further discussion on the Greater Lawrence Educational Collaborative? Motion by Ms. Larrabee, second by Ms. Doherty to accept the report as a report of progress. Thank you. 2010-2011 Title I Parent Involvement Evaluation Report. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, this is a very comprehensive report specifically looking at parent involvement through the lens of the Parent Involvement Survey. The Parent Involvement Survey that is under the auspices of Title I has been something we've been doing for a long time, I think over 9 or 10 years in our district. And it is a survey that's sent home as soon as school begins in more than one language, multi-languages, for parents to respond. It normally goes to K through 8 schools because the high school is not a school-wide program. And so you'll see, I'm just going to highlight parts of this because it's a long report, but you'll see here that at the elementary level, we're looking at what kind of role do parents play in the life of their students, and also how actively are parents involved in their students' academic lives, and then they want to know if we're really full partners in childhood education. So there are a number of questions that are asked. These are all, this is all data that we use in making sure that we're meeting the Title I requisites for what, in fact, we want parents to do in our schools. So this talks about what parents thought about themselves. So there's a nice synopsis here, and this is provided with Mrs. Murphy with the help of Dr. Chea. At the elementary level, we sent home 15,558 surveys, and we got back 15,452, which was astounding as I was reviewing that. That kind of return rate on a survey is amazing. In middle school, it was a little less at 2,138 sent home and 1,968 returned. And so when we did the analysis, parents judge themselves on how they think they're involved in their student's life. It's like a self-assessment and an assessment of what they think the services of the schools provide. So in middle schools, parents rank themselves the highest in thinking that in really thinking that they encourage their children to complete their homework. They also think that they're doing a very nice job at updating the emergency cards and letting schools know when changes occur, if there is personal information that changes at home. They feel as if that they understand school policy and they monitor their children's attendance. So they thought they did the best in those particular areas. They think they need to work on using the family school compact to help their child, because there's a whole compact of kind of us signing off on. The compact is really knowing what's going on educationally in certain subject areas, and so it seems as if they think they could do a better job at knowing the actual day-to-day. And they also think that they could attend more school meetings and workshops and use computers and have an email address. So that is actually an indicator of need, which is really important for us to know as a system. Parents think that their child's school is strong. We're actually really very fortunate most times. In most cases, overwhelmingly, parents really have lots of faith in their children's school. And so that comes out as that they think that we do a good job at providing information in the native language of the home. We think that we appreciate their contributions as parents, and we think that they think our schools are safe. And to me, those are three very important pieces of feedback that we value knowing. Parents also think that the child's school is weak in the following areas. More opportunities to talk with teachers, which this committee has been advocating for a long period of time. They also want more opportunities to volunteer. And additionally, they want more meaningful parent meetings, workshops, and home activities to help them to learn how to support their children. So this feedback is really very meaningful, and it's has been presented to us in a really meaningful way, I think, and there are lots of new work with parents that I think I'm going to use this information for as we move forward. If you look at the middle school outcomes, and the parents think that they're doing a really nice job at helping their children with homework, making sure that things are signed and the emergency forms are updated, and monitoring and limiting TV, video, and computer time. So out of more than 5,000 homes, parents think they're doing a really nice job. They think they can work further on going to school meetings again, using that family compact. So it makes me think about that family compact and how we can break that down in a way that's meaningful for our parents. And then again, using computers and having an email account. So again, that states our needs. The strength in our schools is indicated through our safety. Elementary parents overwhelmingly think that our schools are safe. They also, again, the language, so our translation services are adequate to a number of people who responded. And also that they think that children's schools are strong and us showing respect to them. And that's another very important one for me because, respect is what everybody deserves on an equal basis. And so what parents think that our schools can work on, where we have our weaknesses, are more opportunities to talk to teachers, make sure they know more about safe and drug-free schools, and giving more information about attendance, promotion, and retention policies. We have the code of conduct. It's on the website. We give it out every year. But to make improvements in those areas, maybe we have to do more outreach. As the report continues, there's lots more information. You have additional information about what parent liaisons have found in their work. There's some really interesting facts about what they've learned about parents, what they've learned in their work as far as making parent involvement come alive. But as far as, for my position as superintendent, there are some very encouraging outcomes in this particular report, and there are also things that we need to focus on right away. So this is probably, 15 pages? The last page kind of talks by school. And it's something for me to look at as I'm developing goals, meeting with teachers. I'm looking for a representative from every school to be on my superintendent advisory board, because the student advisory board is so much fun. I think that it'll be really fun at the parent level also. And so these are all things that we need to work on. And I actually will go back to Mrs. Murphy and Dr. Chaya to look at even the details, the next layer down. But I found this report to be very helpful, and for all of us to learn at how best to include our most important partners, the parents of Lowell.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Mr. Doherty, then Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple of quick comments. I guess, and you talked about the strength that both groups, the elementary and the middle school, felt as the key strengths was their kids are safe in our schools, which is critically important, and that we are communicating in languages that they understand. I was particularly interested in the similarity in what they felt were the weakest aspects, that both middle and elementary school parents felt that one of the top three weaknesses was the inability to have time with their students' teachers. And as you mentioned, Madam Superintendent, we've worked to try to get more of that time. We've negotiated in the contract that we now have one evening meeting and one afternoon meeting. And I know you're also aware of efforts to really coordinate and get the best bang from our buck out of that one evening and one afternoon meeting. And really, as a system-wide, I think we've made great strides in that area. I think we still could be working towards doing better overall communication and making sure parents realize this is the time, this is the opportunity. So I'd like to, just continue to emphasize that, because I saw that as something that, parents at both levels really feel strongly. They need to be able to communicate with their parents, teachers, and as we get more online with the program we're doing at the high school, get that down into the lower grades so that parents can communicate through email and through web-based programs. I think that would increase as well. The other thing that I think all the recommendations are an excellent starting point of the work that needs to be done. I was encouraged to see that. But then on page 5, something that jumped out at me was when we talk about school site council. I remember before I got on the school committee, when I was involved with the citywide parent council, we had identified a school at that time that did not have an active school site council. And if you look at under meetings, your third paragraph, school site council, there are 6 schools. If I understand this correctly, all schools except for 6 do not have documentation on school site councils. This is law since ed reform, that every school must have a school site council. And again, when we look towards, we have best practices throughout the district, and the goal is to duplicate that. We need to make sure that there's consistency and that every school has an active school site council. I noticed there also some talk about providing some professional development or training, and I wasn't aware that we had been doing that and stopped, but I would encourage that. But that would be an area I would look at right away. Who are those 6 schools, and how do we get them up on board? Because it is by law that these groups are meeting, and I think they can have a real impact. And some of the other stuff I don't want to repeat that you already said in terms of providing more access to parent volunteers, because as we all know, we have continued to eliminate staff positions, reduce staff positions through layoffs and whatnot, and budget restrictions. And if we can use good parents providing skills that would help with, the work that we're trying to do every day, I think that's, it's a no-brainer as a way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Mr. Conway?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this report is an excellent job. The people that were involved with this, I think it was very well thought out. The thing that amazes me is to take a look at the survey itself and to see the returns. The returns are absolutely incredible. I don't know how they did that. to be honest with you, whoever was involved or overseeing it, but they should bottle this process, because this was fantastic. I mean, it's not a just a smattering of parents, involved parents that might get involved with this, but you're talking about 95 or 98% of the parents are returning these surveys and giving us some feedback. And I think that's absolutely incredible. I mean, it's done in the medical world every day. We see it. It's done in the business community all the time, because they're constantly trying to find out how do they improve their product or their services. And they check with the consumer, and this is something that is paramount on their mind. And here we are doing it, and I applaud the team for putting this together, because once again, this feedback is certainly going to help us going forward. I mean, it gives us the answers to the test. That's what it amounts to. So now all we have to do is take a look at this material and then work on our deficiency, and certainly and celebrate our successes. And it certainly sounds like there's a lot more successes and a lot of good things that are being done by our staff. So again, thank you very much for that report.
Thank you. Ms. Martin and Ms. Larrabee.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to kind of pick up on something my colleague had mentioned too, also in terms of our ability to improve our usage of technology. I do think one of the critical things, certainly, that jumped out at me was this desire on the part of parents to be more engaged with their children's teachers on a regular basis. And I do think that certainly we work very hard to give them as many face-to-face opportunities as we can, but I do think technology offers us a great opportunity in that venue. I also think, having gone through the schools and talked with a lot of teachers, there are so many teachers in our district who didn't have the patience to wait for us. And they've already established electronic communications with their parents. At their own expense, they've set up websites that allow them to communicate with their students and with their student families. And I applaud that. I think it's absolutely the direction we need to be moving in. And I think it's yet another example of one of those places where we have a pocket of innovation in this district, where something really exciting and engaging is going on, and we need to be able to replicate it. I know as we go through our whole process with the technology audit and get all that information, I know that's a key component of it, but I do think that it shows us how technology pervades every other thing that we're doing. We're sitting here talking about parent relationships and parent perceptions about our district. Technology could figure so strongly in that, and I think could really be a real benefit for our parents in helping them be even more engaged and knowledgeable about their child's education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Ms. Larrabee?
Well, I guess I can say ditto to my colleagues, but to me, this report, first of all, is very well put together, and I appreciate the time and energy that went into distributing the surveys and collating the results. For me, the bottom line really becomes the communication part, whether it's through ConnectEd, whether it's through the X2 portal, the newsletters, the school websites, even the What's Happening section in the Lowell Sun, where you just have a little blurb in there of what's happening, in the upcoming week. It touched a little bit about talking about what's going on in the classroom. That goes right back to the conversations that we've had about having a syllabus for each class. So, I think you're on the right track. I think we just kind of need to move that along a little bit faster than we have, and roll that out as quickly as possible, because again, you've got parents that are showing that they want that. We have the ability to do it, so jump right on in. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the report? Motion to approve the report as report of progress by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Larrabee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. The personnel report, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Milanazzo. This is your monthly report of all the changes in personnel to date.
Thank you. Any questions on the report? Motion to accept by Mr. Conway, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Last item under reports of superintendent, home education. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mayor Milanazzo. The next report is a request by Vida and Clark Coleman to educate their child under Homeschooling Act, and this will make the total number of homeschooling families, 29 families, and total number of children being homeschooled to 57.
Motion to approve by Ms. Larrabee, seconded by Ms. Martin. Roll call.
Mayor Milonazo,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee,
Yes.
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent. Passes.
Thank you. Ms. Larrabee.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a suspension of the rules to discuss the last meeting of the year.
Motion to suspend the rules, seconded by Mr. Leary, to talk about the last meeting of the year.
Yes, as it currently stands, the
First
last...
of all those in favor of suspending the rules
Sorry.
signify by saying aye. Opposed, vote. Ms. Larrabee.
As scheduled right now, the second meeting in December is on the 21st, which is the week of Christmas. My thought process was that it is a Christmas week and the end of the year, that perhaps that we could just cancel that meeting and allow our staff to be able to focus on family and the upcoming holiday.
Thank you. Anyone else on the, is that going to be in the form of a motion to cancel the last meeting of the month, December 31st, December 21st, second by Ms. Doherty? Any discussion, Ms. Doherty?
I'd just like to say that only gives us one meeting left, and I still have several outstanding motions and initiatives that I'd like to try to wrap up. So I realize it is close to the holiday, but it's not that close. It's the 21st. And most of our staff has a decent amount of time off. We work a school year of 181 days, except for our top administrators, but I would not be in favor of canceling our last meeting. It's just, that leaves just one meeting.
Okay.
It is unfinished business. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to be heard? Ms. Martin?
I'd actually just put it out to, we have the superintendent here. Would it be a problem to have that meeting on the 21st? I mean, the staff involvement, you're all wonderful. But it is fairly limited. It's the four of you. So I don't know if if it was an imposition, I'd certainly welcome that, and that could change my mind on the vote. But if it wasn't, and we could move forward, I can see Ms. Doherty's point of it really does shorten the amount of time we have to get work done.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Larrabee for that human factor. Thank you very much. However, you know how our work ethic is, so we did anticipate having that meeting, and we were planning on having that meeting. So I do thank you for that thought, but I know that my team is always here to serve, so either way would be doable. So, but thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to withdraw your motion or have a vote? Okay, have a vote. We have a motion that's been seconded. Roll call on canceling the meeting. Yeah.
Mayor Milonazo,
No.
Mr. Conway,
No.
Ms. Doherty,
No.
Ms. Larrabee,
Yes.
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
No.
Ms. Martin,
No.
1 yea, 5 nays, 1 absent. Motion fails.
Miss Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. If I could, I would like to also request a suspension of the rules to bring up a topic of the makeup for our next meeting, our next
Okay,
school
we actually
committee.
are under suspension, so while we're under suspension,
Excellent.
Chair recognizes Miss Martin.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to make a motion that for our next meeting, we ask the superintendent to forward an invitation to the 3 new members of incoming members to the school committee, inviting them to attend. And while we may be short on seats, at least ask them to come forward and sit with us. This has been the tradition for the committee for many years now.
Second by Mr. Leary. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. Anything else? Ms. Doherty?
I just had a question. Is it for the last meeting or the
No, for
next meeting?
For the remaining 2 meetings.
Oh, for the last 2 meetings,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Any further items to come up while we're under suspension? Hearing none, going back to the regular agenda under new business, appointment to the Lowell Telecommunications Board. We do have a revised memorandum from Madam Superintendent. Chair recognizes the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we represent the 2 representatives who have served on the board to continue. I recommend that Jack Bernard, Educational Television Program Coordinator, and Ann Chee, Moody School Teacher, to continue to serve as the representatives to the board.
Thank you. Motion to approve by Mr. Leary, second by Ms. Martin. Roll call.
Mayor Milonazo,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee,
Yes.
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent. Approved.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any convention or conference requests. We have 3 items under communication. The first one is we did receive a letter from the UTL President Paul Georges addressed to Mr. Rosmerick on behalf of the United Teachers of Lowell and the Merrimack Valley Central Labor Council. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to you and your staff for a wonderful effort during the live production of our October 24th Candidates Night. Without the expertise of Jack Bernard, Nick Valkanis, and Brian Wilkins, and the assistance of Dr. Wendy Jack, the night would not have been possible. I also want to make special note of the students who were involved in making our presentation a success. They included Neil Bogart, Angelica Bito, Molly Blair, Connor Crosby, Christina Dang, and Jackie Diaz, Virginia Im, and Dennis Meach. They were knowledgeable, helpful, and most courteous. I received many positive comments in their presence and their capabilities. The students did an outstanding job and should be congratulated. Thank you again sincerely. Paul Georges, President of UTL. Motion to accept the communication placed on file by Ms. Larrabee, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Massachusetts Association of School Committee Conference update. The chair recognizes Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I attended the MASC conference, and I was your delegate at the Assembly, which met for its 65th annual meeting on Friday, November 11th. The first order of business was to elect the MASC 2012 Executive Board. The nominating committee's slate of candidates passed unanimously and included President-elect Mary Jo Rossetti from Somerville, Vice President Jackie Doherty from Lowell, Secretary-Treasurer Anne Marie Cunyo from Medford, and Penny Blackwell will be the president for the 2012 term, and she's from the Upper Cape Cod Regional Voc. The delegates then voted on 5 resolutions brought forward by the Resolutions Committee. I've listed those resolutions in your report. There is a much more extensive information about each resolution on the MASC website, but just for purposes of time, I'm not going to go into detail. Just Resolution 1 was regarding visits to vocational schools, and that all costs for such visits are to be paid by the regional boards. That passed. The second resolution was regarding the teacher evaluation, the new regulations regarding that, and the leadership for all teaching staff. The third resolution was about charter school funding. Seems like every year MASC brings this issue up with our legislature that we really need to come up with a way to fund charter schools that does not take from our budgets. The fourth resolution was asking for deregulation of No Child Left Behind. The fifth resolution was again about the education evaluation process, specifically asking for funding to fulfill the requirements of this law, because it is going to be, very time-consuming and require a good bit of professional development. The other things I included, one was the notes from a presentation. There were 2 really powerful and well-attended presentations. There were several sessions throughout the week, but the 2 that really got the most attention that made me think of this committee was the one on the new education evaluation requirements, and that was presented by Dr. Baer. That was standing room only. They had more than 150 people in the room. People were out in the hall. Division 9, which we belong to, is going to be sponsoring a session. We're hoping to do it in January. We haven't got a date set yet, with Dr. Baer to come out again, because as you know, as a district with a level 4 school, we need to implement these new evaluation systems right away this year. And as a district who is receiving Race to the Top funds, that means we've got to roll it out for the other schools next year. So we really, with having, state guidance, I think would be very helpful. So that, the session on collective bargaining, was also very helpful, because they talked about the new regulations around education evaluations, and they pointed out that the new law specifically says that the visits can be unannounced, that a principal can walk into a classroom, where some contracts might have language differing from that, or there might be some pushback from union leadership to put language that differs from that in. And so under the collective bargaining session, the speaker was really urging us to stay true to the requirements of the law, because that gives us the most opportunity to really provide supportive and accurate information about our evaluation of our educators. So I do have some paperwork which I will give to the superintendent if anybody's interested. But as you know, this is my last year, my last term on the Lowell School Committee. I will no longer be your delegate. I will still be working throughout the year of 2012 as a vice president of Mass Association of School Committees. But I would urge my committee members who continue on to get involved with MASC, and absolutely the new members coming in, and for any of the current members who have not gone through the orientation, it is very helpful professional development that helps us do our job better. And so just two last notes on the conference. As I mentioned to you beforehand, the highest award that Mass Association of School Committees gives out is the Tip P. O'Neill Award presentation for a lifetime contribution to our public education. And Dr. Carla Brooks-Bear, our former superintendent, was in receipt of that. I did include the copy of the speech that they read when they introduced her. I was not, unfortunately, able to get her speech because she seemed to speak extemporaneously. She didn't have anything written in front of her, but the words were just very moving. And I'd like to just share one thought, and I am paraphrasing from Dr. Bear. She talked about the environment which we work in. Now, she was speaking to a room of upwards of 500 superintendents and school committee members. I mean, we have 350-something districts in the state, so it was a packed room of people. So there were superintendents, school committee members, and MASC leadership, of course. But she talked about how we all function in a climate that has become very difficult. We have funding issues, we have, as she called it, 24-hour news services, bloggers in the basement, online, newspaper, anonymous comments that go on after articles, and just the word she used, which I love, good vocabulary words, was vitriol, that as elected leaders charged with the responsibility of setting the policy for our schools, ensuring our children get the best education, and protecting our taxpayers' investment, we need to rise above that noise and keep our eye on the students, and I think that no one exhibited that kind of behavior better from me than Dr. Bear. It was a very moving ceremony, and I was honored to be there and to be able to say that she had spent 8 years in our district doing very good work for us. So I wanted to share that speech with you and her comment. And then the last thing, and I wasn't able to make this in a formal motion because this all happened on Friday, which was Veterans Day. We had quite a bit of presentation around our veterans, and we actually had a group of speakers of families whose parent is serving, usually it's not both parents, who have a parent serving in the military overseas. We had a very moving discussion with a family from the Cape where the teenage girl struck my heart with something she talked about, and I would want to ask it of the superintendent if maybe she could get back to us if this is possible to try to do something in our school district. This young woman talked about what was so hard about not having her dad there. He wasn't there when she was born. He wasn't there for her graduation in high school and her prom. But if the school had taken one moment to identify, and less than 1% of our population is serving in the military. It's a volunteer military, as you all know, a very small number of people. But those students, not only are they lacking a parent because they're off in some dangerous war situation in Afghanistan or wherever, but they feel very isolated in that. And so one of her suggestions, which I said, I'm going to take back to my district and see, was if there would be a way to recognize those students, either, calling out names, and I don't have a plan for that. And I'm thinking specifically at the high school graduation, but if they have 8th grade ceremonies when they leave middle school, any kind of opportunity that we would have to be able to, thank those families because they all make the sacrifice, not just the parent who's serving. So that's my report on the conference, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Larrabee?
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you to Ms. Doherty for all the time that she's put into the Mass Association of School Committees. I guess I'm a little confused about the organization itself. If we're no longer school committee members, how are we part of the process still and therefore being a board member, I guess? Are you, once you're in for life? If you could just clarify that, I appreciate it.
You can become a lifetime member. You have to get nominated and voted for that. In order to serve on the executive board, you have, because I didn't understand this either. In fact, the next day when the executive director called me after the elections, I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to let you down, because the nominating committee had come to me over the summer with the offer. And he said, oh no, the way their bylaws are written, if you're a sitting school committee member, when you're elected to the executive board, and you are a sitting school committee member when the term begins, and our term actually begins before my term here ends. So I will serve 1 year only on the executive board of the Mass Association of School Committees as their vice president, which it's a great honor. You work not only at the state level on issues that, as we know, directly impact our schools. We rely very heavily on state money. State regulations are just bearing down on us. I think the superintendent has, what's the number? 109 reports that she has to do, mandated by law but not funded. I mean, there are a lot of areas, and we also, within the state, that we could work towards making it easier for school districts to do the very important work they do. And the other piece is we work with the National School Board Association, which MASC would fund those trips. And I know my colleagues, well, I think only one left in the room would be my colleague to the far left, when we used to actually go to those meetings, because they're held typically in Florida or California. Since 8 years I've been on the committee, we have not had funding to go to those national conferences, which are also very good opportunities to learn and grow in the work we do. But this year, the year I actually could get to go, it's not in New Orleans. That's where it's going to be next year. It's in Boston. So, but that's also part of the job. Okay. So thank you for that question. I'm sorry if I went on too long. Thank you.
Anything else in the report? Motion by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Leary, to accept the report as a report of progress. Thank you again, Ms. Doherty. Informational, Lowell Telecommunications, broadcast of school committee meetings live on the first and third Wednesday of the month, Thursdays at 9, Sundays 2 p.m., and Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Professional personnel, civil service. Before we adjourn, I just want to thank Mr. Leary for ably filling in for the mayor. I was actually at a work-related meeting, and that's why I was running late, but I will bring in a note from my homeroom teacher tomorrow. Mr. Leary.
And you're welcome, Mayor. But also, Mr. Leahy had to go to his daughter's soccer banquet tonight. Otherwise, he would have been here as well. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Larrabee, second by Mr. Conway. All those in favor, we stand adjourned. Thank you.